Hi, we are live in another epic. I say epic, it's got nothing to do with me, but they're epic because we get really amazing people on our panels. And this week on our visibility hacks, basically your guide to kind of all the tips and tricks and shoestring budget things you can do with basically digital marketing, from PR to social media. It's a minefield for most people setting up business. So these three absolute heroes have given up their time for free because they're amazing. And we've got Katy Howell, the CEO of Immediate Future, who is one of the pioneers. Well, she's called one of the pioneer of social media, having been around for a long time. And before social media really had the name social media, she was doing it. So anything she doesn't know about social media, you don't need to know. And then who we got? Nicole Yershon, the CEO and founder of the MI Collective Communicate on Model, on the Communications Collective, and author of Rough Diamond, which is all about turning disruption into advantage. And like Katy, has been in every list possible for years on the top people when it comes to digital marketing and digital disruption. So again, she's like kind of the rebel of the digital world, which you kind of need to be at the moment, especially that disrupting. And then we've got Clem, who I have known. We shared after when she was launching Clementine Communications 15 years ago. I was launching, as we shared a really shitty office in Hammersmith and had really shitty desks next to each other, and both went in our different directions. He's the founder of Clementine Communications, an amazing would you say luxury, a PR agency, but very much specializing in sort of luxury brands and drinks. And what I like is a lot of her clients are French wine clients. So
not all of
that's
them,
why that's why we stay friends. And also one of our clients is Gibson's Goodology, who are our main sponsor of all our webinars. Amazing drinks that actually taste really nice and not crap like wellness stuff does. So I'm just going to let Clem just tell you a little bit more about Gibson's, and then we'll move on to the really nitty-gritty stuff.
Thanks for the intro. I love the pose, lady. Can we have that again? I will use it on social later on. So a little bit, thank you for the intro. And love that. A little bit about Gibson. And yes, it's one of my clients in PR. Thus, Emma asking me now. I've picked up this brand a few months ago and I completely fell in love with these guys. So Dave, the owner of Gibson, had, I think, a revelation by creating such a drink. As you said, the CBD category, you've got all of sort of products from really sort of down markets. This is really, for me, this is the champagne of CBD. So for those who are not quite aware of what CBD is, gosh, well, you could summarize in a nutshell. It makes you feel better, and I shouldn't perhaps say that. I'm no doctor, etc. But it's got the virtue of reducing stress and anxiety. So it's available on their site. I'm sure you'll find them more as they've just launched a few months ago, so it's very new. But thanks for the support. And I think part of everybody's following. You have a special discount coming up, I think.
Yeah, it'll come up. The other Emma's going to put it. We'll put it in the chat, the discount code for everyone, and it's on there. It's on a banner. I mean, honestly, we are so advanced when it comes to technology.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you can
There's
see
a banner. Cool. Thanks, Clem. So just let's start with Katy. You've been honest as the social media guru, and you win awards. Your agency and you speak all over the shop. You win awards left, right, and centre. You say it's breaking the social boring. What on that? Why? What is it? What do you think it is that why you win the awards and why you do things differently? Because there's so many sort of social media agencies and specialists, Instagram specialists out there. What makes you stand alone and be, epic?
Yeah, some people might not consider me to be epic, but there you go. I'd say it's two things. First of all, we absolutely know what you have to do in social, and there is an awful lot of garbage touted out there. Get more Instagram followers and do more of this, and you can be a growth hack in this way. And in all honesty, it doesn't work. It's fiddling around the edges when it comes to social. Social's actually quite a intimate close relationship building platform, and so your marketing has to break the social boring, because there is, I know it's only lunchtime, but I've had a good few swigs and I'm very, very relaxed. There is a load of shite out there on social media. It is just beyond the amount of deluge of crap that goes on. That the problem is that most of us who are using social, and 98.8% of us use social media, are just thumb surfing through social. So it's really important that what you do is thumb stopping, and that is breaking that boring cycle of putting the same old stuff out, and moving on and finding ways in which you can attract attention. So there's that side of it. And the reason we win awards is really simply that that's what has impact, and that impact has business value. And when you can tie what you're doing back to a value, I don't necessarily mean income, it could be all sorts of things. It could be recruitment, it could be building your brand, it could be getting you into a new audience. All of these things when it adds value to a business, then you win awards.
So on that, because there's all that confusion on, are you meant to post every hour? Are you meant to throw, a post a day? Are you meant to do a story a day? It's, what if someone came to you and said, what's the most important thing they say, take Instagram, for example, because that everyone uses Instagram. What's most important? What should you be looking at? Is it engagement? Is it reach? Is it, the quality thumb stopping that you just put out, one every 2 days? I mean, what would be, I know everyone's different.
Everyone's different. And also you're asking me if you should buy a car dependent on the bumper, what size the steering wheel is, and whether it should have a rear view mirror. Yeah. so but it's not even that. They're all the wrong questions. The question is, does the car work, and does it get me from A to B? And the reality is, because the right question to ask yourself is, what do your audience want? And how does your audience behave? Because social's really leaky. So just focusing on social metrics is really poor, because people may see your product. They may look at Gibbs and Goodology on Instagram, but they may go make that purchase online and go through search. So you won't even know about the impact you have unless you measure everything. So you need to measure broader. But more importantly, you don't even know if you should be on Instagram if your audience isn't on Instagram. So you start with your audience. Always start with who it is you're targeting. And anybody who says they target everybody, go away, come back with a sensible answer. And when you know your audience, you'll know how often you can produce content. Let me give you a very brief example. If you're producing content for my daughter, who's 23, you can actually get away with quite a lot of content. If you're producing content for my mother, who's 75, who is also on social media, then once a week, once every 2 weeks could be enough. So everything narrows down to your audience, and the stuff you should be measuring is all the way through your customer journey. Don't ever, engagement and followers is pointless, because nearly all the platforms strangle the number of followers that actually ever see your posts. So while you're merrily building up thousands and thousands of followers, unfortunately only about 10% of them will actually see any of your posts anyway. So you are really, it's a bit like kind of going into town and trying to shake hands with people. It just becomes a random, pointless impact and expensive. So less content, better quality content, and focus on measuring across your kind of customer funnel, for want of a better word.
And have you, because you've not been around the block, been around for around the block in social media for like years, and seen it all and every platform. And have you got like a favorite one that is your sort of, your thing?
Well, there's two. I am obsessed with TikTok. It's my wind down. I'm bearing in mind I'm 55. Okay, so I'm not a spring chicken, but I love it. I spend hours on that bloody thing every evening. That's how I spend my time, because it makes me laugh. I just find it's really easy content to watch while you're doing something else. And the other is Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is a bit of a minefield at the moment. It is littered with a lot of detritus, but Clubhouse is a new social media platform, but there are some really interesting discussions happening. So I joined one on manga, for instance, the other day, stuff that's really left, as well as obviously social media and marketing. But there are some really interesting people on there, but yeah, you do have to sift through quite a lot of garbage on there.
I've got real FOMO. I've got FOMO with Clubhouse because I've got an Android phone and I keep getting invites every day. I'm like,
oh no,
it's not on Android yet. You know what I'm like? I'm like properly missing out on whatever it is. So,
wow.
And Katy, I just wonder, and I just react on Clubhouse because, like yourself, I'm fascinated. I just started, like everybody, I guess, a few weeks ago, and I took part in various chats about marketing, PR, or just personal matter about well-being and health and so on. I find it fascinating that everybody can have their own voice and speak out loud. But you're right, there's a lot of people who just want to be there to hear the sound of their own voice. So it's hard. You need to spend a good 3 hours but on the show to listen to actually.
Yes, and there are hints that the data is being scraped by other countries, and so you don't want to be giving away your bank details, not that you would, but and there are lots of fake accounts. There's a fake Brad Pitt, for instance, which everybody got very excited about. There's a real Zuckerberg and a real Elon Musk, but there is not a real Brad Pitt on there at the moment. But so there is a lot of mess on there. It's like social media was when I started on Twitter and Facebook in 2006. It was a bit of the Wild West. It was back in the day when you got sheep on Facebook, and you could send people sheep. It's all a bit insane, but I kind of like that, because in the insanity you find these moments of opportunity. And I'd say for us sisters, the biggest opportunity are groups of female founders, and because we're brilliant networkers. So for those of us who are looking to find interesting people talking about different industries and maybe in different places in their career journey, there are some amazing places to go listen to conversations amongst women who have set up massive conglomerates in logistics and finance and all these kind of things, as well as sort of groups and huddles where people are kind of co-creating and working on partnerships. So lots of really interesting things that fit with the membership that sits here. So I think it's not right yet, but it's definitely worth an explore.
And TikTok as well, because a lot of people, I know we've been kind of tiptoeing around. We can't obviously with KK because it's adult content, but on that, for as in mainstream brands and companies, a lot of people are going, is that not kids? Is it? I mean, what's your advice on sort of using it if you're a business or a brand or?
Well, it depends, isn't it? If your audience is there, then yes, you should. So, but it depends. Don't ever categorize your audience by age and demographics. It's a really really old-fashioned way of doing marketing. So to give you an example, I am a 50-year-old woman who lives in Surrey, and I can promise you I do not hang around with another load of 55-year-old women who live in Surrey. What I hang around with are groups of people that share common interests with me. So yes, of course it's social media, but also I love to crochet, so I also hang around in crochet. Yeah, I know. I crochet little things. So, yeah.
Wine bottle holders.
Yeah. Well, baby Yodas and little mini Groots and things, and tiny carrots, just because I can. So I hang around in groups that do that. I hang around in groups that are into yoga because that's what I'm into. So I am driven by my passions, and so is everybody else. You join a group not because of the demographic. You join a group because that's of interest to you. So you have to kind of shake your head a bit and go, okay, I'm not looking at them. What are the interest groups that are relevant to me? Now, if one of your interest groups happens to be dance or lip syncing or music, then TikTok is absolutely right for you. But also the biggest trending sections are things like family. So people are actually doing those conversations with their dad and their mum, which are usually fairly hysterical. And the mums network on TikTok is massive, and pets. So those are the three top trends. You wouldn't think they were, and they have absolutely bugger all to do with how old you are. So you have to kind of get the age thing out of your head when it comes to social media, because we just follow what interests us.
There we go. So Cynthia said Quilt, the other Quilt, US-based app on audio networking. Still waiting for first. Cynthia, if you want an invite, there's loads in the Sistrs Facebook group of people with invites. So there's loads of, if you want one, just message me and I'll send you one of one of the ones that I'm getting every freaking day at the moment. I can't join. But on Nicole, on the digital disruption, like as a whole, because that's sort of your background, what you've done, and the book, your book you've written, and we've spoken about it this year already. When I say year, I mean as in the crazy year since last February, and everyone all online, and your whole turning disruption to an advantage, and the whole world is disrupted. What's your go-to on social media? And the fact now, as Katy said, everyone's engaged online because no one's got anything else to do, and you're swiping from your background and experience on getting noticed, that attention.
Yeah, I've been on social media pretty much since it all started, whether it be Instagram or Twitter,
MySpace.
Yeah, and I'm quite ruthless in terms of I don't doom scroll. I mean, I did find it quite exhausting with the whole Trump scenario, and it was a lovely feeling when he disappeared from Twitter. I just felt a weight had been lifted. But I'm very good with, it's an hour a day normally in the morning, that I call scanning the environment. And I will, whoever I'm working with client-wise, I will have in the back of my head, and I'll go off in a weird direction. I'll just allow myself an hour to just go wherever it takes me. And it's almost kind of, it moves me away from echo chambers, from always seeing the same people speak about the same thing over and over. And it will move me into a very weird space where I know nothing as to what is going to come at me. So normally an hour a day, 7 days a week, I'll allow myself that time to just scan the environment globally. And that will kind of get me away from that continuous 8-hour looking at things. I kind of give myself that hour, and I don't then go back and stay on it for longer. And then what I'm doing within that hour is I'm just picking up lots of information. There's a really nice quote that's by Alvin Toffler. I think it says, I use social media to learn. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So that is how I use social media. I'm really not using it in terms of what's happening with Kylie Jenner or that kind of thing. I'm using it for work. I'm using it to clue myself up on different things that are happening. I'm using it Clubhouse, for instance, that Katy was talking about. There's some really beautiful rooms that are going on there, and if they're well moderated and facilitated. So there's one on a Sunday at 12 o'clock, every single Sunday at 12 o'clock till 1:30, and it's moderated by Esther McVeigh. And it's almost like an LBC program, actually. And the topic is If I Ran the World. And it's such a lovely, big topic. And there's no negativity that kind of comes in. You've just got people from all walks of life. It's not the glitterati. It's just regular people in education, people in politics, just regular people. So you find those nice rooms and you're going to learn. And that's what I love for social media, the learning rather than the angst.
Yeah. And on the launch, because a lot of people are sort of, especially like in Sistrs, are kind of one man, one woman setups that are just starting out, just launching, and they might have been used to their own social media, their own sort of digital basics. But then it's sort of, well, how do they start like getting out there just in the digital world? Because all we've got really at the moment is digital marketing you can't be out and about shouting about it.
I think marketing is a critical word because it has been bastardized a little bit, but it is the for death for you as a brand. And marketing is promoting my business when I'm not there. So, you know, it's good to understand that you want something to keep on going even when you're not there. So the first thing is you've got to know who you are. And as Katy was saying, you know, your audience, who you're speaking to, and I can send I've got some killer questions to help you discover that. Yeah. So you've got to work hard to define yourself and how you appear and the words that you use and the tone of voice. So if I'm doing something not for myself, I'm doing something for, say, I've been helping my brother in his cleaning company. And so I need to have a tone of voice as his cleaning company and what he would say. So therefore, it's not you, it's you as that brand that you're representing. So have a good understanding of defining that tone of voice. Be consistent. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, it's no good saying, "Oh, I've been doing this for a month or 6 months." It takes years, literally. Katy and I mean, I don't know, all of us, we've been communicating in this way for years. It doesn't happen overnight. So be consistent. People will remember your discipline and relevance. Digital is important because you can quickly apply your content across all digital platforms. So you can start to test and learn what works. And whereas years ago on the TV, or, you know, you were a 30-second TV ad just to put a spot in Coronation Street would be 70 grand. You know, now you can start to chop and change content and see whether it works or doesn't work. Lots of testing and learning in digital. So have lots of that lovely content and different headlines, different visual. You can change these all the time. And the visuals that you're using don't have to be that you've paid loads of money. There's lots of beautiful libraries out there like Unsplash, where as long as you source them and you say where you got it from, you can use their beautiful photography or video content. So that's quite a nice way to test and learn. And then be out there on platforms that are relevant to you, that feel right. So some people might feel Clubhouse isn't for me or TikTok isn't for me. But if you feel an affinity with LinkedIn or with Twitter or with Facebook, then put yourself on those platforms if it feels right for you. So they're my kind of like top things to consider when you're out there. Yeah. Writing a lot as well, I think, really helps because it gets it. Writing helps everything, actually, because you can read it out loud, you can send it to friends, it will help you think, it help you realize what you've missed out or what doesn't work. It will help you rehearse stuff. So I think being able to write is a real skill.
And a lot of people, there's a little chat going on in the comments about having the confidence to record videos. Like, I know I won't watch this video back once it goes up. I hate it. I don't listen to podcasts that I go on because I just hate the sound of my voice. But I just do it. That's and then people are like, how do you start? You know, bite the bullet on the filming, the content, and the stories. This is for like all of you. So where would you start? Like, Clem, where on talking to clients on that front?
Yeah. It's a really good transition. I guess I live and breathe social media the same way as Nicole and Katy. But it's nice to understand, obviously, your audience, but it's also crucial to know the narrative and putting words, as you just said, Nicole, choosing the right words to go across all different channels. And I think this is also why, you know, people go for social media agency or sometimes also PR agency like myself, is we help brands to put their narrative together. It's a skill to be able to be good writers, and it's great to work with an agency, I guess, you can trust, and they can work with you, not on their own, but they can really work with you to put your word out there on a different platform, different way of putting a messages out there. And I don't know if you recall, but a couple of weeks actually was International Storytelling Weeks, and I perhaps was the only one excited about that. But you know, storytelling it's creating that narrative is what makes your brand stand out from your competitors, and I think it's just so important to find your own voice, to find your own narratives. And brands, it's very competitive out there. So for anyone who starts on social media, choose your audience, work on your audience, absolutely, but choose your right tone of voice. I can see brand launching on Twitter because they feel it's relevant to their audience, a little bit elder, more trade, for instance, and then they have the wrong way of formulating things. It doesn't work, so it goes hand in hand. I also see people sometimes you have the wrong visuals, attached to the wrong wording. So it's just little things. That's why I guess we speak to professionals who know and can support you. But there's no right and wrong. It's just a way of trying various ways. And then having the confidence. Then if you think, okay, my way is to speak in public and having videos Insta Live, for instance, so that I've been working very well for you, Emma. You've run so many Instagram Live over the past 12 months. And I've been
for my own sanity, I need humans in my life. It's kept me sane.
It's amazing. No, it's really
Huge respect.
That has inspired so many of us to do more on our own business. So no, keep going. I think it's brilliant. But you're right. It's suddenly having the strength to look at the camera, feeling confidence to deliver the right message for your company or for yourself. And I do a lot of media training with clients, and that's what we help clients is to find this confidence, to put the right words. And it's interesting, me being French as well. I think they appreciate I give a little bit of, I try to make things a little bit more casual. I think people are very daunted when it's a camera, when you go on TV or actually when you just do a Zoom like that, or no, it's not even a StreamYard, whatever it's called. But it is scary if you haven't done it before. I think we all agree. Unlike you, I don't like watching myself again, but funny enough, I do train people to do that. So it's not easy for everyone.
I think there's some key things. There's a friend of mine, Tori. She runs a company called Paddle Consulting. She uses something called Fubi. So as long as what you're doing is funny, useful, beautiful, and inspiring, so it's Fubi. They are the trends that allow you to share across. They're the kind of the things that people will find interesting within social.
I would add some little practical tips, because I am like Em, and I absolutely bloody hate being in front of the camera. I've always hated it. In fact, I've done a good job of pushing everybody else in my team to be in front of the camera. But this last sort of 2 years, I've really had to do it, and I have had to get up on stage, and I have had to do it. So some tips, right? Number one, if you're like me and cannot remember what words are once we get in front of the camera, use a teleprompter. It doesn't cost a huge amount, makes a huge amount of difference, even if it's just for the bullet points, because my brain just goes to mush. Second, always start your session dying for a pee. If you do that, you're so focused on your bladder, you stop worrying about how stressed out you are. And the other tip I've got is I always put on something like Elton John, I'm Still Standing, and dance about, which I did just before this, and dance about really madly like a complete insane person. And the reason, that's probably why my hair always looks like this, but one of the things that particularly us women have when we're stressed, when we're in stress position, is our voices become tight. And we don't breathe properly, so we start to take shallow breath, and our voices become tight and often pitch up, and that really can be quite. What happens is we're aware we're doing it, so it becomes really stressful and becomes this horrible virtuous circle on the camera. So the answer to that is to go dance about, and at which point you're so breathless, dying for a pee, got your teleprompter in front of you, you kind of just go.
You don't realise you're doing it.
And I do exactly what you do. I don't watch myself at all. I can't stand my voice. I sound like a sea lion. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Like a sea lion. That's a new one.
That's really good to understand oneself in knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And maybe you are not that person to be that front person on social media. I mean, when I was running the Ogilvy Labs, there were 4 of us in the team, and there were what we called lab rats, so other people who were working with us within the organization who really loved it. So that, everyone was given a week with all the social media handles with their own tone of voice. And actually it felt much bigger than it ordinarily would. And everyone had a chance to shine. So then you would start to find out, be a bit more emotionally intelligent on what things were suitable to what people and what made them shine. because some people, they're shy and it's just not going to be their thing. Clubhouse is quite good for that because it's audio. So you're not being seen. You don't have to kind of constantly, shush your hair or put any makeup on. Not that I bother anyway, but it's I just think it's understanding self and knowing that it's not for everyone. Don't try and put yourself out there if it's not for you. Maybe something else for you that could be relevant within that social space. I think the other thing is to be respectful and social. So if someone's going to be negative to you, just always be gracious and respectful with your responses back. Then you can't get into an argument written in 140 characters. Just say, I understand your point of view and thank you very much, or whatever it is that you need to add. Otherwise, it can make you quite angst.
We were talking about that before we went live, isn't it? That they're not reacting, because that's the other thing is with social media and putting yourself out there, and you've got a brand, and as soon as you raise your head above the parapet, you will be shot down. And that's the thing, and that's something. And I became much better at taking it when I just saw myself as like out of my body, out of me. I was just a marketing funnel. So Emma Sayle is a marketing funnel for my businesses. It's not personal, it's not emotional, there's no attachment. So when I go out and put stuff out there, it's just a method to market into my business. So I don't really care what anyone says, or abuse or trolls or comments, because I've totally separated it from Emma Sayle as a person and Emma Sayle as a marketing funnel into the business. And that's probably a bit like you were saying, Clem, about the storytelling, when as a brand, that it's knowing that story. So when you have your clients and they come along, and a lot of people want the founders a lot of the time, and they want the stories and to get attached to brand. I find now people want the story and the people behind the brand. So you've got to come out, which is a really awkward position for a lot of people.
Except you don't have to be as polished, do you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to know what Clem thinks, because I think you have to be very polished for the media, but when it comes out in social, I've seen people who have been great doing. I mean, you have to deal with the trolls and everything else, but you have to deal with the trolls anyway. But actually, we're much more accepting of people, real people, and so maybe you've got some advice, Clem.
No, it's really interesting, because last year taught me actually a lot. Normally in PR, I tend to be I want to be in control. We need to be in control of what the media will be asking. We're in control of clients' crisis management. So we've planned if anything goes wrong. Yes, with a bottle of wine, let's say a piece of glass in a bottle of wine and someone dies. I know it's extreme, but in PR we need to be ready for any things that might happen with your brand. So to face the press and the media in general. But I think last year really told me that, and I think I started to accept that we're not in control all the time. And social media is I guess a clear testimony of that. Is sometimes you have this person who has a right go at you for something you've just said. If you are prepared, you can sort of let it go, but you need to make sure, yes, it doesn't, don't make it personal, as Emma, you were saying. Try to use it, or try to use the right word to turn it back on its head. And I've seen brands doing so well by being criticized and swinging things around to their advantage. So it's I think it's a constant evolution. But yeah, it's let's see how the future, what we can do with that.
Yeah.
Not everything works for people. So I thought the Weetabix thing with the Weetabix, the beans
that was
on
hilarious. The whole Twitter.
Good.
If you haven't seen it, have a look at Weetabix and the Twitter conversation between all the brands.
Through to one of my WhatsApp groups that I'm on, and there was this whole massive response of, it makes me sick how people respond with all of those brands, and like really negatively. And I just thought, really? I don't get that at all. I just think it's really funny. So
I thought it was hilarious. Yeah,
everybody's different in how they're going to react, and you don't quite often you don't see it. So you'll say a flippant remark thinking you're funny, and perhaps it's not funny, or it hasn't translated as funny, or that's what happens, I think, with text especially.
It's also about finding your own voice. And a friend of mine, Amy Keane, runs this session called Practice Makes Unperfect. And I just love that bit, which is that's one of the things that we can often do is go, but this isn't perfect enough. This isn't we want to be perfect on screen, on our videos. We want to be perfect in everything we say. Well, actually, that's a real business block. Sometimes you just have to get on and do it. And this blue stripe thing, which is I love the tone of this, which is being unperfect is actually part of what makes you the brand that you are, and particularly if you're fronting your brand and it's a small business, it is you. So finding your voice is incredibly important.
Yeah, and being unapologetic, really, isn't it? It's that you can't please everyone. You're not going to keep everyone happy, and you are who you are, and your brand is who your brand is. And again, you can't. If you try and please everyone, you're not going to get, as you said right at the beginning, Katy. You're trying to hit everyone on social media, and it's the same thing, trying to target everyone, and it's the same thing trying to keep everyone happy and not get any abuse. It's like, as long as your core users and the people you're wanting to hit are on side, then if they turn, then you worry.
Things have changed now, whereas how years ago it was all about brand and what you could say or couldn't say or were allowed to say. Now we are more in niche audiences and maker audiences, so you are able to sell something that you're creating to a very niche audience, whether that's doing up your house or decor or crocheting something that you're then able to then sell yourself. People are buying into those niche audiences and want to support local rather than global. And I think social media helps that, because it does give you a voice in a crowded marketplace where you can build a business and survive and thrive.
Yeah, and on the you touched on it, Clem, the storytelling. So what are your tips on that? So people, are just starting out, they've got small business, they've got their, what it is. What is your advice that you'd give clients on the first step into the story that you're going to tell?
Yeah, I think the work starts before that session. The work starts by the choice of people you work with, so the choice of the agency you want to select. I've seen so many clients coming to me because of disappointments working with previous consultants who could not understand their way of communicating or their tone of voice, and wanted to translate them or change completely their wording and then put them on TikTok, for instance, which they felt in their heart was not right for them. So I think step number one, if you are looking to communicate, is really find the right partner. An agency or a solo consultant doesn't really matter, but just find that you have a connection with these people, so they understand you understand each other, and you know that you can work well together. And then once you've selected, I guess, these people, yes, we have a full what we call soaking session, where we spend about 4 hours with the clients, and we map out the key message of the brand. We map out a way of communicating. We go through the audiences. So we have a social media division, far less developed than you guys, but we have a small team, because some of our clients have got smaller budgets and they want to be out there on social media. What we do, and the core of the business, is really the PR side. So we draft the messages more to reach out to press, but I guess also to influencers, because influencers nowadays are not just on social media, but they also write for some media. So there's a very thin line now between social and influencer or ambassador. I don't know how you want to call them. So we try to really map out all these core messages, and then we start writing, and we make a few suggestions to clients. We work together to deliver their narratives, and then we write press releases. We can have a press release for broadcast media, we have a press release for the national, we have a press release for the trade press, a press release perhaps for influencers, because all those messages will be tweaked slightly, so to reach out to your audience. And just to go back actually on talking about audience, Katy, and that's really interesting what you said early on. If you hear of brands saying, "Oh, I target everyone," don't come to me, or just rethink. I have more and more international well-known brands who have done so much survey on marketing, and used to be my target audience, if you recall, is CSP plus one, that's female, male. Nowadays, over the past 4 years, I've got marketing directors of well-known firm coming and say, I target everyone. We have stopped geo-targeting, I target everyone. And if you try to dig in a little bit more to say, yes, but to write the narrative for your audience, I need to know a little bit more. They're not able to describe anymore who they're targeting. Do you find this what do you reply to that?
Well, I don't tend to see it, but but I would add to one aspect, which is it's not about geo-targeting, and it's not targeting that I'm after. What I mean by that is that you need to be able to divide your audience into personas, understanding the motivations to purchase. So different people have different reasons for buying things. So, just to go back to my car analogy, I know it seems daft because we're not getting out of the house right now, but
just teasing
you've got an audience who are buying cars because they need to do the school run. You'd be an audience who are looking at cars because they're worried about the environment and wanting to make the upgrade to an e-car. You've got an audience who are triggered into buying a car because they, as in our case, we needed to buy a bigger car because we had another big dog. We ran out of room in our car, So it's that kind of stuff. So the reality is actually what you're doing is understanding your audience in groups of personas, number one. Number two is if you think you can build your business on organic social, think again. It will never happen. What do I mean by organic? Which is just putting posts out there. When I'm talking about business value, so this effort, not just building brand, but actually getting reach, because reach is everything, which is really what your audience cam is telling you, your client is telling you, is I need reach, but you can't generically reach out to everybody, because the real value in social is in being relevant. So if I can speak to you in one respect in a different way to the way I speak to Nicole, is to have that very different understanding of where you are. So I'm trying to build this personality persona around you that my message communicates to, and the way you get reach is paid, and the real results out of social come out of paid social, because you can upweight your paid, and if you drive that traffic to your website, your shop, etc., or in feed stores or whatever it is you're doing, that has much more impact than posting 3 times a day on Instagram.
Is it I guess because I know there's a small, when I mentioned to a few smaller brands that I was on this talk today, a couple of people sort of said to me, I agree with you on advertising and ad, it's crucial, but I said, where do you start? Do I need to pencil £3,000 a month? Do I need to budget, £100 a week? What's where to start to make a difference?
Everybody always asks that.
You're the specialist, guys.
How much is it?
Let me tell you. So the downside, the challenge you have with social is all done on bid price. So it depends how competitive that market is. So if it is a highly competitive market like fashion, you'll pay more than maybe if you're selling drinks. So this might be very specialist. So the bid price against this, it might be very low. I suspect CBT products, actually, by the way, are extremely highly biddable at the moment. So that makes it slightly more challenging. This is what I would say to smaller businesses, which is start small. What you want to do is experiment, exactly what Nicole talked about, which is the test and learn bit. You don't have to get it right first time. You really don't. What you do is you put small amounts of budget. Do not boost social. Boosting a post is very untargeted, and actually it's actually classed down by nearly all the systems. You go into the back end of social media. So go into Facebook. First of all, pick one channel. Stop trying to be on everything. Pick one channel. Just test it on one, or your head will fall off. Pick one channel and then test. And what you do is you say, I'm just going to pick this one group. I'm going to pick the mums that are looking to buy, or mums and dads that are looking to buy cars that can do the school run, right? That's all I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at parents, and I'm going to target them with these kind of messages, and I'm going to try this group, and I'm going to try these types of creative, and maybe put 50 quid, 100 quid, just see how it goes. And then very quickly, what you'll be able to see within 24 hours, you'll be able to see what you should turn off oh, nobody's responding, let's just get rid of that lot. Let's get that creative doesn't work, or that idea or message doesn't work. This does. And then you build on that. You build on that week on week so that you begin to understand, because you can actually spend too much money. I won't go to the real complications of this, but you can effectively draw this kind of scale where you go, at some point you hit the saturation you can hit. You know, so you can spend 3,000, but if you then spend 6,000, you actually get no more reach, no more value from it. So always go up in tiny increments till you get the hang of it and get the rewards from it, and that will make a huge difference to how you manage a campaign. Then you can look at expanding maybe from Facebook to Instagram, or start to think about TikTok, etc.
I think also the other thing is, most people don't understand there are two separate costs. There's a cost for the media. So if you're going to advertise on, say, Facebook, it's actually placing it as a Facebook ad is going to cost you X amount of money, but you also need to make it. You need to make the ad, or however. So that's also either a cost for you if you're getting someone else involved, but there are two costs, the creative and then the media costs. So it's not that it's just I'll put $1,000 away and I'll do Facebook ads. What does it look like? What's the headline? Is a picture taken on a beach in Bali, or are you using stock shots? You know, there's cheaper ways to do it, and then there are more expensive ways to do it.
It comes back, doesn't it, to that user persona, like who do you want? So I remember when we did an example with Sistr, me and Katy spoke about this before, and all over the place. You know, there's so many professional women, there's across all industries, across all ages, and all. So we did it. You know, when we started, it was a bit of a scattergun. You know, kind of exactly what you said. Don't do it like that. So it was when you know, people are like, a lot of people you speak to don't really understand what's the persona thing. So example, you know, we've narrowed it down to 3 personas in Sistr. You've got the older ones, so we would be one persona, us 4 in the top, who running our own business. We're there. What do we want? We actually don't need masses of advice. We want like-minded people to find other women in the same what we are, because the higher you go up, the less other women there are, because women tend to go off. We're all on the same to start with, and then some might want to be stay-at-home mums, which I totally respect. You know, it's all down to choice. I have so much respect to anyone that is a full-time mum. I couldn't do that with my kids, which is why I'm calling walls on that. And there's some that don't want to carry on career-wise. That's not their drive. So for us, that persona is the ones who are kind of up there running their own thing, which is a lonely place to be, wanting other women on that wavelength for friendship and community. And then you've got we had the middle, another persona, women to sort of starting out, who are wanting to get the confidence and go up the career ladder of where they are. So that, and then other ones, and the second one was sort of the squiggly career, the pivoter, we called it, who might have been made in the last year, made redundant, or have had a baby and don't want to go back to the work they're in. So we had 3 very strong personas. And so any kind of message we did, it's like, well, who are we hitting? And that, as soon as we did that, actually, you might have noticed we haven't really posted on Instagram for over a month, because that was doing fuck all. And we realized, actually, they're all on Facebook and LinkedIn. So we've turned to, that's where we're hitting, and it's made a real difference since the beginning of January, just targeting 3 personas and really focusing on LinkedIn and Facebook. So it's exactly, what you said on that front.
And your brand, though, is very consistent. The colors are consistent, tone of voice is consistent, how you're wanting to help people is consistent. You share a lot of stuff that is free, that's consistent. So, and that takes time. So, you know, I think you're doing great stuff.
And on top of everything that the girl said, I think what I admire also about what you're doing, Emma, I was telling a friend yesterday, I said, you set up all these things, but you are part of literally every single call. And that's the time you spend to, and I really credit to you, because over the years, you know, as an agency, and again, moms and so on, it's not a reason, but quite busy, I guess. you know, you set up things and sometimes you can't attend, so you set up and then you have a company or a team do it for you, or your number 2 or your number 3. And I relate to that. You at the moment are the face of Sistrs. You are there in every single call.
Humans.
You're there on every single Instagram live. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how does she do it?
It is that needing humans, isn't it?
I do need to send you some more of that, don't I?
I need more CBD. Well, how do I do it? Wine and CBD oil. I've had a few Zoom chats with Katy, and yeah. But on yeah, enough about me. Don't like that. So shoestring. Just before we finish, just a couple of shoestring tips of people that, you know, they don't have a huge budget. They're just starting out, and so Clem, on like the PR front, just a couple of takeaways of
Yeah, it's so for me, it's the choice of the people you work with. I'll go back to that, but I really believe I've made you know, the agency that you will choose will become your right partner or not. Create your persona, create the narrative, work on the storytelling, choose your right channels. And then for me, I'm more a media expert for the past 20 years than social, despite the fact I actually spend perhaps 7 hours a day at the moment on social media. Don't judge me. But I'm completely addicted with Clubhouse. I just can't stop listening to shows, which I need to. But it's very much so. Once you find the right partner, you choose all that. Give it time. It doesn't come like social media. It doesn't come overnight. Sorry. But be prepared. Be prepared to face the media. Be prepared to go on TV. Be prepared to reply to queries for a national newspaper that might need a quote tomorrow morning. Trust your agency. Work with your agency. And give it a go. PR is wonderful. It has done wonders. I have so many case studies of how a good piece of coverage has changed the life of a business from being unknown to suddenly put back in front of everyone. I genuinely am passionate about PR. I do believe that it makes a difference to a brand or a person, because we do PR for personalities as well. And when it goes hand in hand with social media, it's a success, guaranteed success.
Yeah. Katy, what about you? What would you say if you had like a minute to tell someone just starting social?
Less is more. So don't rush to do something all the time. So narrow your thinking down so that you go out with 2 or 3 messages. You don't have to have something new every day, and spend more time on the quality of your content. Experiment more. Yeah, and don't be your own worst barrier. If I was to go back to me at 30 and me at 20, I go, I'm getting in my own way, and it's a real challenge. So, you know, get on video, do your stuff, have a go, be brave. I promise you, the world will not stop turning.
It is true, isn't it? I've got less and less perfect, if that makes sense. Having and like just going, it's just shit happens. You know what I mean? It's not perfect. Chuck it out there. See what occurs. Yeah. What about you, Nicole? Starting out in the digital.
I mean, there was a saying, "What's the worst that can happen?" But actually, what's the best that can happen? So if you just kind of stop with the negative in the head of the 2 + 2 = 5, and just go with, you know, experimenting. But 2 things that we haven't talked about. One, I think I don't know whether people still think it or do it, but don't kind of go with this attitude of, I need something, I want to give someone a brief for it to go viral. None of us know what's going to go viral. We didn't know that Sir Tom was going to, you know, be as incredible as he was. We don't know those things. So you can't go in it with that brief of wanting something to go viral. The other thing that we didn't touch on is fake news, and then understanding what you're sharing, because you as a brand, or if you're on social media, you don't want to be sharing things that are fake. So really start to understand, well, what does that mean, and what are the right URLs or the links to share or not share. I think be understanding of making sure what you're sharing or putting out there is truthful and honest, and it's come from a good place.
Be responsible, isn't it? There's a lot of that. If you chuck stuff into the digital world, it doesn't matter, because all the fake, all the unkind, all the troll, all the you're just making stuff up is, I think you've got to really be really responsible, and it's not about the money. You've got to take that off the table and go, does my soul and gut feel right in putting this out there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Perseverance, grit, and passion, I think, are my 3 keywords today.
Cool. Do you know what we I don't think we've answered most questions that kind of come in, but if anyone has any questions after this, any specific things that we didn't, because obviously, you know, social and digital, we could sit here for 8 hours and miss loads out. Yeah, if anyone has any specifics or wants to be put in touch with these guys on a business level, then let us know. But if not, we will love you and leave you. And get on the Gibsons. CBD
Yeah, exactly.
makes you feel good.
Come on,
Give
last shot,
anxiety and
lady.
depression and stress and everything.
They're on the way, Emma, I promise.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.